Right, hi everyone, welcome back to this little series I'm doing on each of the dispositions in the new edition of Warhammer 40,000. We're on to the fourth one now, which is Reconnaissance. This is going to be, again, a slightly different play style to the ones that we've looked at before. So we've looked at sort of take and hold being predominantly predicated on holding objectives, getting onto objectives and holding them, keeping them. We've looked at Purge the Foe, which has a bit of objective play, but is very much geared around killing your opponent and tabling him, wiping him off the board. We've seen Disruption, which had a few actions, being annoying, doing things around the table to sort of sabotage your opponent's game plan. And now we're looking at Reconnaissance, and this is a playstyle that is indicative of a mobile army who can move around the map, get around the battlefield quickly, and control different areas of the map. So this will favour fast armies, again, so for the movement and the manoeuvrability, armies with abilities such as deep strike and redeploy and scout and infiltrate, things like that. So, abilities that allow you to put your units in places that they normally wouldn't be able to get to. And probably the weakness of this disposition, I would say, is that the disposition favours running armies of multiple small units. So such units can be quite frail, of course, and can easily be killed, which means you can lose control of points or areas on the battlefield, or you could be allowing your opponent to score by killing you. And it's not a good thing ever, really, is it, to lose lots of your army. But we'll see how we get on here and what these missions are like and what it will be like to run a reconnaissance disposition. So the first thing we'll do, as usual, is have a look at the different missions, see what they're called. And the first one, when you're playing a take and hold player, when you're playing an opponent who's running the take and hold disposition, you will be playing Reconnaissance Sweep. So Reconnaissance Sweep is a reasonably straightforward mission on the face of it. The scoring is like this. In any battle round, at the end of your turn, if 3 or more friendly units are wholly within 3 different table quarters and not within 6 inches of the centre of the battlefield, you score 3 VP. Or alternatively, at the end of your turn, if 4 or more friendly units are wholly within 4 different table quarters and not within 6 inches of the centre of the battlefield, score 6 VP. So it's a little bit like the old engage on all fronts. You are being rewarded here and you are scoring purely for being in different table quarters. And if you can do it with all 4, then that's 6 VP every battle round. So not being even rewarded for taking objectives here, certainly not for killing units. It's just getting around and having a presence in all aspects of the battlefield. The other bits of scoring here are in any battle round, at the end of your turn, for each enemy unit destroyed, you score 1 VP. And also from the second battle round onwards, at the end of the command phase, if you control 1 or more objectives, not including your home, you get 3 VP. So that's standard hold, but you actually only score 3 VP for hold rather than the usual 4. So you have there a little bit of they're paying lip service in a way to killing units and to holding objectives. But, the most you're going to get is sort of 5-6 VP from that. Whereas if you focus on being in all 4 table quarters, you'll get those 6 VP anyway. So let's see how it plays in conjunction with the take and hold mission, see if there's any complementary or opposing characteristics here. So the take and hold mission is Purge and Secure, and in any battle round, at the end of the player's turn, 1 or more enemies were destroyed this turn by a friendly unit that was within range of 1 or more objectives, 3 VP, or where 1 or more enemies that started the turn within range of 1 or more objectives were destroyed, 3 VP. So here the emphasis is on killing, and the take and hold player is either looking to kill with units that it has on an objective or to kill enemy units that started the turn on an objective. So you have a combination really of killing and holding here. There's some extra scoring as well from the second battle round onwards. The end of the command phase for each objective that is held, not being the home, that's 4 VP. And that's not hold, standard hold, that's for each objective held, not just holding one. And then at the end of your turn, if you control one or more objectives you did not hold at the start of the turn, excluding your home, 3 VP. So there the emphasis really is on holding objectives. So I guess the take and hold player is just going to focus on getting onto objectives, holding them, and then killing anything that comes near them. And they'll be racking up points that way. This is completely contrary, really, to what the Recon player is trying to do. In fact, the Recon player doesn't really even need to hold objectives. I suppose you do if you want to max out, but if you're in all 4 quarters of the battlefield and you can kill a couple of units a turn, you're getting 8 points. So all you have to do is hold one objective. Yeah, it's there's a bit of a difference there between play styles. I suppose it comes down to is the Recon player content to let the take and hold player sit on these objectives and just keep scoring? And I would posit the idea that they're not going to be comfortable with that. You are going to be spread quite thin, I think, here as the Recon player, because you're going to want a presence in at least 3 quarters of the battlefield. Otherwise you're going to really find it hard to score any primary, and preferably be in 4 quarters. And you are going to have to target 1 or 2 objectives that the take and hold players trying to get here, and force them off and take them off it, because otherwise their scoring is it just seems quite easy to score. On the face of it, I think the Reconnaissance player has its work cut out here to do all of that and to find a way to win the game. So this is the first one where I'm looking at it and thinking, well, the Recon player has an uphill battle here against the take and hold player. But as I say, with Recon armies, they're going to tend to be sort of horde armies or like 20 unit plus armies. Maybe they can do a bit of everything. It's going to take some real management of your army though, and you're going to have to really pilot all of these units well and in conjunction with each other. So I think that's interesting. I think that's quite an intriguing little matchup, but I do think that the Recon players at a slight disadvantage. If you've played this or any of the other missions, do let me know, because I haven't played a Recon opponent at all yet, and I'm very interested to hear about your experiences with these, because they seem fascinating on the face of it, most of these missions, but you have to experience them really, don't you, to know what they're like. So we now move on to the Purge the Foe matchup, and as we've seen with the Purge the Foe disposition video that I did, a lot of this play style is centered on killing your opponent, but also trying to take and hold objectives as well, with a few little twists. And this will be one of them, because the Reconnaissance player is playing a mission called Triangulation, and they're up against Consecrate, which we ran through in the Purge video. So both armies here are going to be trying to do actions. So there should be some good sort of cross-play here. Let's see. So the first thing to say is that the Recon player has, as I just said, this action called Triangulate. And the way it works is that from the second battle round onwards, you can make an action with one friendly unit that's in range of one objective, not being your home. This can be done once per turn only, and it completes at the end of your turn if your unit controls the objective that they're doing it on. And if you do so, you then place an operation marker within range of this objective, and it's called a triangulated objective now. So it has this characteristic of being triangulated. And this leads on to the scoring of, from the second battle round onwards, at the end of the command phase, you hold 1 or more objectives that aren't your home, and you get 4 VP for that, so that's just the standard hold. And then also from the second battle round onwards, at the end of your turn, if one objective is triangulated, so you've done the action, or alternatively, at the end of your turn, if 2 objectives are triangulated, or alternatively, even better, at the end of your turn, if 3 or more objectives are triangulated, you will score 10 VP. As I said, you can only triangulate once per turn. And I don't think there's any way that you can sort of detriangulate or untriangulate an objective. So your opponent can't take this away from you. Once you've done it, once you've held an objective and triangulated it, it's yours then for the game. Or it's got that status for the whole of the game. So you can then move on and try and do the other one, and then move on and try and do a third one. So you're always going to be looking to build up your scoring in this way. So from the second battle round, you're going to be looking to score 3 VP. I mean, you're going to have to hold one objective just to triangulate, to get a triangulated objective. So that's going to be 7 VP just for doing one at the end of the second battle round. But then hopefully if you manage to do another triangulation every battle round, you're going to be moving up to at least 10 VP. And then by the fourth battle round, you're going to be getting 14 VP straight away anyway, because you've got 3 triangulated objectives, so 10 points, and you're already holding the last one that you triangulated ideally. So you're getting 14. So I can see this will be quite a high scoring and easily scored mission, so long as you can take one objective per battle round, because you don't even need to carry on holding the ones that you've triangulated. You can just move off and leave them and then move on to the second one. You're still then getting your points for holding an objective if you've moved on to the second one, and you're also still accumulating those triangulation points. So that's the way I'd do it. But then if you do manage to hold the objectives that you took and triangulated, at the end of the battle there's an additional bonus, if you like, that if you hold 4 or more objectives at the end of the battle, you score 10 VP. So if you do manage to dominate the battlefield, you will get rewarded for that with an extra 10 VP. But essentially you could achieve all the primary scoring that you need by just taking one objective per battle round, triangulating it and moving on to the next. So that's quite a unique sort of mission so far. We haven't really seen a mission that works that way. Your opponent is going to be playing consecrate, as I said, and what they are trying to achieve in that mission, if you remember, is that when their units kills another unit, so when the purge player's unit kills the recon player's unit, that purge unit becomes a consecration unit. It can then walk up to an objective and just put down an operation marker, and then that objective is consecrated. And then the scoring for the purge player is in any battle round at the end of the turn, for 1 or 2 consecrated objectives they get 3 VP, or for 3 or more consecrated objectives they get 6 VP. And again, I don't see any way you can unconsecrate these objectives. So as long as you're killing, as the purge player, as long as you're just killing, you're gaining the status of being a consecration unit, and then you can just go up to an objective and just put that marker down. You don't have to, and as I'm reading it, I just want to double check. You select one objective that it's within range of, excluding your home, that's not been consecrated. If you do, place one operation marker within range of that objective. Yeah, so that's the big thing, that's the big advantage with consecrate, is that you don't ever have to hold the objective to do it. You just have to kill. So again, the emphasis is on killing, really, for the purge player. And if you can do 3 throughout the course of the battle, you're just constantly getting 6 VP just from that. But the other scoring for the consecrate player is that from the second battle round onwards, at the end of the command phase, if they hold 1 or more objectives, they get 4 points. And if they hold more objectives, then they get 4 points. So hold more. And then at the end of the battle, they also have a little bonus of if they've consecrated their opponent's home. And again, that shouldn't be too hard to do, really, because you don't have to hold the home. You just have to get near it and then put the marker down. You get 5 VP for that. So, the interesting thing is you don't even have to hold your opponent's home, and it doesn't even stop you from, attacking, shooting, or doing what you want, because you don't have to hold the objective. It's not an action. You just have to get onto an objective, and then at the end of your turn, if you're still alive, you can just put your operation marker down. So consecrate's a really interesting one in that it seems involved, but actually all you're just killing a few units and then going up to an objective, and then you've got points then for the whole rest of the game. So it's going to be quite difficult, I think, again, for the recon player to prevent this, because as I say, you're probably running a large army and multiple units, maybe 20 units or something with the recon army. And how are you going to stop the purge the foe player, whose army is probably geared around killing? How are you going to stop them from killing 1 or 2 of your units every turn and then just walking up to an objective and consecrating it and building up their score that way? And then
while that's happening, you're having to take objectives and hold them, basically. So it's an interesting one. But now I'm reading it, I think the Purge the Foe player has the benefit here. I think they're going to find it is, yes, they have to hold and hold more. And, once you've triangulated your objectives, that's it. You're building up the score there. But you have to hold the objectives to triangulate them. And if the Purge player can stop you doing that, if the Purge player can stop the Recon player taking an objective once per battle round, they're really going to nullify them. And I don't think the Recon player is really going to be able to stop the Purge player in the same way. Because as soon as he kills, unless you are able to target consecration units, I think that's maybe the way that the Recon player wins this. Whilst you're taking your objectives and doing your action, trying to triangulate, you're also targeting the Purge player's units that become consecration units. And if you focus on them and kill them before they're able to consecrate, that's what you probably have to do. But again, the issue there is that you become a consecration unit as soon as you've killed something, and then at the end of your turn you can put down the marker. So if the Purge player is clever about this and is killing units while they're within range of an objective, while the Purge player's unit is within range of an objective, you actually can't stop them from consecrating the objective. So I really think a clever Purge player is going to have the advantage here on the Recon player. Again, who knows? Haven't played them, so we'll see. But at the moment, it's not looking amazing for the Recon player, in my view. But let's see what they face with the Disruption opponent. And when you play a Disruption opponent as a Recon player, you're going to be playing a mission called Surveil the Foe. So the way this mission works for the Recon player is that each time a friendly unit ends a move within range of one objective that has any of your opponent's operation markers within range of it, you can remove that operation marker, or actually remove those operation markers from the battlefield. So that's just simply, if you walk up to an objective that has one of your opponent's operation markers on it, it gets removed from the battlefield. Fine. Then you have an action called Surveil the Foe. And this is where the Recon player will get one of his units, select an enemy unit within 18 and visible that has not been surveilled before during this turn. And they will do the action, which has an unlimited use and completes immediately. And that's what it is. You just pick an opponent within 18 and visible, and they are then surveilled. You've done your action, and that opponent is surveilled. And then the scoring is sort of triggered off that by the fact that in any battle round, at the end of your turn, if one or more enemy units were surveilled this turn, unless each of those units is within range of an objective that has an operation marker on it, 4 VP. So you're not getting points for every unit you surveil. You can only do it once per turn. So it's kind of weird that the action is unlimited. You can do it with as many units as you want and do it to as many units as you want, but you will only score if one was done. And the additional sort of caveat to that is that you don't score unless the surveilled unit is not on an objective that has any operation markers on. So what this is sort of encouraging, I suppose, is that you get onto the objectives as well, because you're going to need to get onto an objective that has operation markers on it, remove those operation markers, which they do automatically when you get onto the objective, and then surveil the enemy unit. So that's what you're trying to do as the Recon player. But that's quite a lot just for 4 VP a turn. The other scoring is that from the second battle round onwards, at the end of the command phase, if you hold one or more objectives, not your home, 4 VP, so classic hold. And at the end of the command phase, if you hold more objectives than your opponent, 4 VP, so hold more. And then also at the end of the turn, if none of your opponent's operation markers are on the battlefield, you score 5 VP. So actually there's 13 VP there to have hold more, and take up all the operation markers off the battlefield. So maybe you focus on that rather than the surveilling of the units. But I guess if you've done those secondary things, then actually surveilling of an enemy unit is actually very easy to do. So that's it. That's the mission for Recon, and that's what you're trying to achieve. Again, it's very focused on holding objectives, with just the additional caveat of doing this surveil and also being rewarded for removing operation markers. But the funny thing is, if you remove, let's say your opponent's got 4 operation markers on the field and you remove 3 of them, you don't score anything for that. It's only if there are none of your opponent's operation markers on the battlefield. So that, again, that's quite, it's quite a harsh one. You don't score for each operation marker you remove. That would have been easier. But I suppose for each one you remove, you can then surveil a nearby foe, can't you? So, it's okay. I don't really know what to think about this one. It seems that if you're taking objectives, you should be able to score reasonably well. But if we compare it now with the disruption player, he's playing smoke and mirrors, and this is the one where you decoy objective markers. So this is an action where you take one of your friendly units within range of an objective that isn't your home and that has not yet been decoyed. And it has unlimited use, and each unit that does this action must be within range of a different objective. It completes at the end of the turn, and if your unit controls that objective, that's the criteria for it completing, or the condition for it completing. And if you do that, so if you hold this objective and you do the action that decoys, then you place an operation marker within range of that objective. And that objective is a decoyed objective, and again, I don't know any way of undecoying the objective. Although the Recon player is going to be running around the battlefield removing the operation markers that the disruption player has put down, it doesn't say that the objective is now no longer decoyed. It doesn't say that at all. Maybe we need some clarity on that from Games Workshop, but all it's saying is that you're removing the operation marker. And that's important because the scoring for the disruption player is that at the end of their turn, for each objective that is decoyed, they get 2 VP, plus for each of those objectives that's within their opponent's territory, and a plus 2 VP. So that one's pretty clear. That is rewarding aggression, rewarding you going and taking objectives, particularly objectives in your opponent's half of the board. There's also additional scoring from the second battle round onwards at the end of the command phase if you hold 1 or more objectives that aren't your home. So you just have to hold any objectives. So that's the classic hold, which mirrors the Recon player's scoring. And then at the end of the battle, if 4 or more objectives are decoyed, you get 10 VP. Now, again, so it's slightly unclear here. Does that mean you just have to decoy different objectives, which means you do have to have held them at the time, even if you don't hold them at the end of the battle? So if you've done 4 throughout the course of the fight and they're all still decoyed, do you get your 10 VP, or do you still have to be holding those objectives? I mean, or if the operation markers have been removed, do you still have decoyed objectives? Now, as I say, as I read this, the way it's written, there's nothing that says that if you remove an operation marker, then the objective is no longer decoyed. So as long as you do them, you're just building up decoyed objectives. And if you can do 4 of them, then you get 10 VP. But I think we do need a little bit of clarity with an FAQ just to confirm that you're keeping those objectives as being decoyed, even if you may then lose the objective and the operation marker gets removed. That is still a decoyed objective. That's the way I read it, but let me know how you've been playing it if you've experienced these missions. So overall, you've got the interaction of the disruption player putting down operation markers and the Recon player running around removing these operation markers so that it can then perform its surveil action. And then you've got rewards on both sides for holding objectives. So this one is, again, it's going to really favour who can hold the objectives. On the face of it, seems quite even, that one, so it doesn't seem quite as unbalanced as the others. And obviously, as I say, I haven't played any of these missions, so I might be wrong on my initial assessment of them, but this one seems reasonably well balanced. But I do think we need a little bit of clarity from Games Workshop as to whether with a lot of these missions, whether when an objective marker gains a status, whether it can lose that status by either you losing the objective or an operation marker being removed, etc. I don't think so, but it'd be handy if they just clarified that. Right, so let's go on to the fourth mission now. And this one should be very balanced because this is the mirror matchup. And this is called Gather Intel. And this one is going to involve an action again. So the way this works is, as a reconnaissance player, and that is both of you, obviously in this instance, you have an action called Extract Intelligence. And from the second battle round onwards, you can make an action with one of your units that's in range of an objective that isn't your home, and that does not have any of your opponent's operation markers within range of it. So we have this again. Unlimited use for this one, and each unit that starts this action this phase must be within range of a different objective. So again, you can do it with multiple units multiple times in the turn, but each unit must target a different objective. It completes at the end of your turn if that unit then controls the objective at the end of the turn, and if it does, a bit like with the previous one, you place an operation marker within range of that objective. So the scoring then works like this. In the first battle round, at the end of your turn, if you control one or more central objectives, 6 VP. So that's very easy to score, you would think, on the face of it, particularly if you're going first. And it's quite big points. 6 VP in the first battle round is pretty good. But you're really being encouraged to come out there and bring something out right into the middle of the board. And it's only for the first battle round. So strange. Not really sure why they've done that, but maybe it's just to open things up a bit and encourage aggressive play. But the main scoring is from the second battle round onwards. At the end of the command phase, you hold one or more objectives, 4 VP, and at the end of your turn, for each friendly unit that completed the Extract Intelligence action this turn, 7 VP. So that's big scoring. So you get points for just hold, the sort of classic hold, but also if you manage to complete the Extract Intelligence 7 VP. And as we say, if you're holding an objective, the chances are you're doing an action along with that as well. So you're going to need probably units to kill your opponent, to force them off the objective and for you to get it, and then also a unit to do the action of Extract Intelligence as well. And if you can do that on the same objective, you're going to get 11 VP for that. And of course you could do it with multiple objectives. So if you Extract Intelligence on 2 objectives, that's 14, and you're going to be holding at least one of those, aren't you? You're going to be holding both of them really. But well, at the start of your turn, when you score for holding, maybe you're not holding an objective at that point, but if you can just do Extract Intelligence twice, you're going to get 14 VP. So either way, you're going to score really well doing that. So, and then at the end of the battle, if 3 or more of your operation markers are still on the battlefield, score 5 VP, and if one of your operation markers is within range of your opponent's home objective, so on it, you get another 5 VP. And there's no way to remove operation markers in this mission, so your opponent won't be doing that because he's running the same mission. So yeah, so if you've taken your opponent's home at any stage and done the Extract Intelligence action on that marker, that you have guaranteed for yourself 5 VP at the end of the battle. And if you can hold on to that, you're probably going to be holding at least 3. Or if you you don't even have to hold them at the end of the battle. If you have at some stage held 3 or more objectives and you've managed to do the action when you held them, then your operation markers are still going to be down at the end of the battle for 2, and your opponent's home. And even if you've then since lost them, you'll score 10 VP at the end of the battle. So I quite like this one. It's quite aggressive. It's rewarding you for pushing forward and even from the first battle round, getting forward, taking objectives, and just having a spare unit to, once you've taken the objective, do the action and then get your operation marker down. And hopefully by the end of the game, you've got 3 of them down there. And if you can score 5 VP for that, and if one of them's your opponent's home, and another 5 VP. But I think this one looks like it's pretty reasonable to score well with. And as I say, with it being the mirror matchup as well, there's no weakness here. Essentially, you're both doing exactly the same thing, so it's going to come down to the list and to pilot skill. So yeah, great. Like that one. Quite a fan of that mission. Seems pretty good. But moving on to the last one, and this is when you're playing a priority assets player. As we've discussed before, priority assets armies are quite balanced. They're probably going to be built for a combination of being able to kill and hold objectives. So let's see how the Recon player will deal with that. The Recon player is going to be playing Search and Scour. Quite a straightforward mission, really. In any battle round, at the end of your turn, if you hold one or more central objectives, 3 VP. And then in addition to that, at the end of your turn, if one or more enemy units that started the turn within a terrain area are destroyed, 2 VP. Okay? And then a little bit more scoring. So from the second battle round onwards, at the end of the command phase, for each objective you hold, not your home, 4 VP. So that's not hold, the sort of standard hold. That is for each objective you hold, you score 4. So if you're holding 3 objectives that aren't your home, 2 expansions and the central objective, for example, that's 12 VP straight off. So that's pretty good. And then also at the end of the battle, if no enemy units are wholly within your territory, so you're holding your entire half of the board, you score 5 VP. So this one's, as I say, pretty straightforward. If you're being rewarded here for holding objectives, quite simply. And if one of them is the central objective, then you can max out. If you're holding 3 objectives and one of them's the central objective, you're getting 15 VP every battle round. So seems pretty straightforward, but are you going to be able to do that? Well, the priority assets player is playing a mission called Vanguard Operation. That involves them doing an action, and they do this with one friendly unit within a terrain area that is within their opponent's territory. And this can be done once per turn and completes at the end of the turn if no enemy units are within that terrain area. And if so, this action completes and it's called performing a Vanguard Operation. So obviously Vanguard sort of alludes to the fact that you're pushing forward into the opponent's territory. And then the scoring is that in any battle round, at the end of your turn, a friendly unit performed a Vanguard Operation this turn, you'll score 4 VP. And then also at the end of the turn, if one or more enemy units were destroyed, you get 2 VP. Then from the second battle round onwards, at the end of your command phase, you hold one or more objectives, not your home, 4 VP, so standard hold. And at the end of the battle, if you hold your opponent's home, 10 VP. So that's a big incentive, again, to be aggressive there. So the main scoring is going to be that they want to get onto an objective in the Recon player's territory and take it and do an action. And that's how they're going to score. And that is probably going to involve killing at least, one or more enemy units. So that's sort of 6 VP, if you can do that. And they can only do it once per turn, so you can't stack up on that. You can't even do it on 2 different objectives. So you're scoring 6 VP. You're probably going to be holding 1 or 2 objectives, maybe. Well, you're going to need to hold 2 objectives, really. I would say every command phase. That will give you 8 VP. So 8 and 6, 14. This looks like it's going to be kind of difficult for both sides to score, I think. Because I think the Vanguard Operation mission does not yield a lot of primary scoring. You can only score the action once per turn. And I suppose if you really want to max out, you're going to have to kill... Well, no, it's not even going to matter. So you're not scoring for each unit that you kill. It's if one or more enemy units was destroyed. So you can only do that once as well. So really, you're only scoring 6 VP per turn outside of just holding an objective. So really, you're scoring 10 VP a turn. I don't understand really how you can possibly score more than 10 VP a turn here as the priority assets player. So I see this as being a real problem for the priority assets player. As I say, you can score Vanguard Operation action once, you can kill a unit once, and you can hold an objective once, and that gets you 10 VP. And that's it. Whereas the Recon player, they're scoring, let's just go over it again, 3 points for central objective, killing an enemy that's in a terrain, 2 VP. For each objective you hold, 4 VP. And that one, as I say, could be up to sort of 12 or 16 VP a turn if you're doing well enough. So it's odd, because it's much easier to score as the Recon player than the priority assets player. And I suppose that is because the priority assets player is probably built to kill and hold objectives in a better way than the recon player. My reading of this is that the priority assets player has to be very aggressive in this matchup if he wants to win, because you've got to really deny the recon player from certainly from getting the central objective, and then from holding multiple objectives. And if you're doing that, you're also looking to get into the recon player's territory. And again, with the Vanguard operation action, it doesn't say that it has to be a terrain area that's wholly within your opponent's territory. So a central objective will be partly inside your opponent's territory, I would think. So one, you can deny the recon player their 3 VP for holding a central objective. And also you can do the Vanguard operation on that central objective as well. So I think with the slightly lower scoring here for the priority assets player, it's incumbent on them to be really aggressive and to come forward, go into the recon player's territory, start taking objectives, start killing things. And if they do that, they've got a good chance of winning. But if you are passive as the priority assets player here, you're just going to lose, I think. You're just not going to be able to keep up with the scoring. But that, again, that's my view. Haven't played it myself, so if you have, please let me know. But let's talk about a little bit about the types of armies that are going to be playing Recon. And this shouldn't take too long, because there aren't many of the detachments that give you access to Recon that are 3DP. So we're literally talking about 2 here, because I'm going to ignore the Imperial Agents detachments. So we're talking about Astra Militarum Recon element, and we're talking about Chaos Space Marines Renegade Raiders. And those are the only 2 detachments in the game that cost 3DP that are reconnaissance detachments, basically. So what does that tell us? That probably then that Recon needs a bit of help, or you're going to need, maybe it's not strong enough to really just support one detachment, and you're going to probably want to run it in multiple, or you're going to want to run a different, stronger type of detachment with a different disposition, and then maybe you'll use a recon detachment for 1 DP, and that will give you access to recon if you want to do that. And there are 16 recon detachments in the game that cost 1 DP. So, yeah, I mean, looking down at some of the 2 DP detachments, they're just not ones that you see a lot of, really. Custodes Null Maiden Vigil, Admex Skitarii Hunter Cohort, Drakari Sky Splinter Assault, Emperor's Children Mercurial Host, Genestealer Cult Vanguard Onslaught, Necrons Hypercrypt Legion, Orcs, Blitz Brigade and Speedwar, Space Marines Vanguard Spearhead, and on like this. These are not the sort of highest performing, most popular detachments in the game at all. So I'm thinking that the recon disposition is one that you build into another detachment, and then if you want to unlock it and run recon, maybe you want to run recon with let's see what maybe. So let's look at a 2 DP detachment. So maybe you want to could run something like Champions of Faith with Sisters of Battle. You could run Wind Rider Host, for example, with the Eldar. Cult of Speed with the Orcs, something like that. These type of 2 DP detachments. You could run Corsair Coterie with the Eldar. Again, that's a 2 DP. Seer Council, Real Space Raiders, Drakari, and these are going to cost you 2 DP, and then you build on a 1 DP detachment to unlock Reconnaissance, and maybe you still run Reconnaissance with one of those armies I just mentioned. So that's an option. I think we'll see people do that. There just aren't going to be many 3DP reconnaissance detachments in the game. So maybe I can see reconnaissance being a bit of a composite type army that you build around, and then you just throw in a 1 DP detachment to unlock it, and then you try and run reconnaissance with the army that you've built for that purpose. Interesting, we'll have to see. This is all very new. We don't know what the best lists are yet, and time will tell on that. But give me your thoughts if you have any in the comments, please. 1 video to go. If you want to be notified when that comes out, then please like and subscribe, and it should hopefully be with you soon. Thanks.